What's up, YouTube? This is Two Bar Forward TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to Zach Hankins for the $10 donation via the Cash App. He asked a question: what if Ben Gordon stayed on the Bulls with Derrick Rose? Now, you may recall, for one season, they teamed up with one another. Ben Gordon had already been playing with Chicago. I forget which year was his rookie year. It might have been 2004, 05. Might have been 2004, 2005. I think that's the year. But anyway, he was drafted third, I think, overall in the draft. Whatever year it was. It definitely wasn't 2003. That was LeBron. That was Wade. That was Bosh. I think it was 2004. Let's go with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 2004. He was drafted third by the Bulls. At the time, he became the first rookie ever to win Sixth Man of the Year. He was Mr. Dynamite in the fourth quarter. I think his rookie year, he was second in the NBA in points in the fourth quarter behind LeBron James. 3 times he was rookie of the month. And, Ben Gordon was a breath of fresh air in the post-Jordan era for Chicago Bulls fans. We felt some hope for the future. Some. We didn't think that he was going to win back-to-back titles, nothing like that. But there was hope. And then, for 1 year, Ben Gordon and Derrick Rose had teamed up. The Bulls drafted Derrick Rose in the summer of 2008. And there were questions as to whether or not 2 score-first guards could coexist with one another, but they played very well. They start off slowly that year, finished with a 41-41 record, and in the playoffs in the first round, as the 7th seed, they played against the 2nd seed, who were the defending champion Boston Celtics. The Celtics were expected to sweep them, but Boston gave them all they could, handle it almost more, ultimately pushing that series to 7 games. Now, during that season, Ben Gordon led the Bulls in scoring, and in the postseason, he led them in scoring. I think he averaged something like 20 points, a little over 20 points per game in the regular season, and like 23, 24 points per game in that series against Boston. Now, we're talking about Boston, one of the best teams in the NBA. So what if they played longer? Ben Gordon left in free agency. He left in free agency and signed with the Detroit Pistons. He won the money. Now, had he signed an extension earlier, then maybe they would have played longer. Now, they did sort of mesh with one another. Although they both were scorers, Rose was still a bit more of a facilitator, overall. So he naturally fit the point guard position. Although he still was a scorer, although he was a scorer, he was still a guy that was capable of being a facilitator. He just wasn't a facilitator on the level of a Chris Paul or a LeBron James or Steve Nash or something like that. And he was more of a driver of the basketball, slasher at that point in his career. He wasn't the strongest outside shooter. Whereas Ben Gordon was more of a jump shooter and a three-point shooter. As a matter of fact, Ben Gordon shares the record with, who is it? Latrell Sprewell and I think Jalen Brunson, for the most consecutive three-point shots made in the game without a miss with 9. Matter of fact, Ben Gordon did it twice. So he was a prolific outside shooter. So Derrick Rose bringing down defense, slashing, kick it to a guy like Ben Gordon. You know, the way they played the game, space on the floor, it would have worked. It worked well. But in order for that team to win, hinges on a couple of things, in my opinion. They would have had to play well, and ultimately, I think for that team to win, Derrick Rose would have had to be the lead guy. Derrick Rose would have had to be the lead guy. He was the best player. He would have been their best player. So Derrick Rose, let's say, and we didn't even see Derrick Rose at his peak. The injuries robbed him of that. So it's a lot of woulda, couldas in this situation. A lot of had to have to happens. In this scenario, Derrick Rose recently retired. He'd have had to be healthy, right? So let's just say by 2013, 14, 15, 16, that's when we start seeing the best version of Derrick Rose without the injuries. So let's say as it got easier and easier to score, plus let's just say naturally he would start working on his outside shot anyway. He goes to being a 27-point per game guy. Okay? 27 points, let's say 8 assists, shooting around 35, 36% from downtown, right? He improves. Ben Gordon would have to be more of a secondary guy. And I suspect as he got older, because let me see, Ben Gordon by the mid 2000 teens would have been what? 30, 31, 32. Okay. So by NBA standards, he still would have been pretty young. He'd have been, more of a jump shooter. I think he'd improve his defense, work on bringing down his turnovers. But if he's more of a catch and shoot guy anyway, then turnovers would naturally start going down anyway. But I mean, he still had the ball in his hands when he was playing and stuff like that. But if he naturally became more of a primary catch and shoot, jump shooter type guy offensively, that would have fit more into the head. But there's something I'm leaving out too. Something I'm leaving out. If they were to make that next step, and this is not being talked about, because we're talking about like that's the same team, right? Well, if they're going to make that next step, then old boy would have had to have really improved his overall game. What's his name? Jesus Christ, Florida Gator guy. I'm having a brain fart right now. What is his name? Play for Florida. Give me 1 second. I can't believe Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah would have had to improve, man. I mean, Joakim Noah, you know what I'm saying, was a great rebounder, you know what I'm saying, great defender, but offensively, he never became what we thought he was going to be. Like, he didn't have to be Tim Duncan or, he didn't have to be a 20 and 10 guy, but if he could just consistently been more of a 16 and 10 guy and maybe just have a dependable 12-foot, 10 to 12 to 14-foot jump shot, maybe like a, a baseline jumper or something, or a free throw line jumper. If he could just add that to his game, then the Chicago Bulls, even with the Heatles, would have been contenders, even with the Heatles. And by the way, if they could have built something in Chicago organically, naturally, that would have really made LeBron's move look piss poor. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, if they could have developed it into a squad, Ben Gordon, Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, I never really took to Carlos Boozer, man. I mean, whatever. I just never took to him. But if that team could have materialized and Rose stayed healthy, I mean, they could have been contenders in the Eastern Conference. They could have. But if you're talking about specifically those two as a tandem, they could have been great. Was Ben Gordon an all-star level player? I mean, you can make a case for that, playing at his highest level. But at the end of the day, I think that if you add Ben Gordon and Derrick Rose together, they could have been a great duo at the very least. They could have been a very good duo. You know what I'm saying? Now, championship, I don't know. But yeah, that's how I look at it, at least. Then you got to also look at the fact that we all know ultimately Ben Gordon had his psychiatric issues. Um, so Ben Gordon always came across to me from reading about him as a very intelligent person, uh, but a little bit obsessive, compulsive in certain areas. Um, you know, but I don't know. I never really thought about this, the Ben Gordon and Derrick Rose angle. You know what I'm saying? I never really thought about it too much. And I still have my reservations about Tom Thibodeau, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly critical of him, but after I saw what he did with Derrick Rose and what he did or attempted to do with Jimmy Butler, playing those guys such heavy minutes, man. I don't know. But anyway, that's how I look at it, at least, man. Just trying to think if I'm forgetting something. I remember Ben Gordon also being this guy, you know what I'm saying, that had these burst games, you know what I'm saying? He had these games where, he was streaky. He was streaky. There was games where he did not shoot well at all. And for some reason, even though I know it's not quite the same, but for some reason, I just can't help but think of the Steph Clay dynamic. I know they're not the same. And I'm not equating Derrick Rose to Steph Curry, and I'm damn sure not equating Ben Gordon to Klay Thompson, but I tend to think of that dynamic, like if they could have meshed, you know, that's why I tend to think Ben Gordon would have had to be he would have had to improve on his defense, and I would think he would have to be more of a catch and shoot guy rather than a guy that had the ball in his hands a lot. Kind of like the adjustment that Ray Allen made. You see what I'm saying? Kind of like the adjustment that Ray Allen made as his career progressed. But anyway, that's all I got to say about him. Tell what you guys think.